Gospel for today is found in Luke chapter 8, beginning at verse 26. We listen to these words. Then they arrived at the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. As he stepped out on land, a man of the city who had demons met Jesus. For a long time he had worn no clothes and did not live in a house but in the tombs. When he saw Jesus, he fell down before him and shouted at the top of his voice, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. For many times it had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles. But he would break the bonds and would be driven by the demons into the wilds. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion, for many demons have entered me." They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now there on the hillside a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter them, so he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. When the swineherds saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then the people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. Those who had seen it had told how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then all the people of the surrounding country of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone begged that he might be with him, but Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your house and declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. This, my friends, is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. You may be seated. I arrived at 5:40 this morning, a little bit early because I knew at 9 o'clock I had to preach briefly. When all of a sudden the alarm on the security system went off, and it said it was armed, and there was the buzz throughout, so I punched in the code as I remembered it from 3 years ago when I last did it. But the darn thing wouldn't shut up. It continued to buzz, and before I knew it, I got a phone call, told them no, I didn't want the Loves Park police to show up. I am who I say I am. And then Pastor Rob came in, and he was followed with a police officer who was likewise armed. Sermon title, Armed. God has armed us to be able to do ministry in the name of Christ Jesus in a new day and a new age. We are coming to the end today of our 60-60 experiment, where for 60 days we've been focusing on the love that God has for us, trying to respond in love and attentiveness to God with body, mind, spirit, and soul. And secondly, finding ways to more creatively and honestly demonstrate the love of God for others. How has it gone for you? How has your attentiveness been there? For most of us, this is a journey that doesn't just take 60 days. But it's been fun to hear from you the stories of how you've seen God at work in your life and how you've been able to share that love of Christ with others. Today, as we conclude from Ephesians chapter 6, let me make just a few comments for you, for us as we gather around the Word of Christ. Paul was writing about a different day and a different time period, where being armed certainly looked differently. My wife Jody and I went last night to the movie Robin Hood, and even looking at the equipment back in the Robin Hood movie days was certainly different kind of equipment that Paul was talking about here. But as we turn to Ephesians 6, here's just a few thoughts about how God equips us to live as people of faith today. Number one, he talks about putting on the girdle of truth. The girdle was a leather belt. It was around the midsection. And it's fascinating that Paul begins here at the midsection, the place where our guts sit, our intuition, the ways in which we perceive things. And Paul says, girdle yourselves with truth. That truth being the fact that Christ is always with us. Jesus, who says about himself, what? I am the way, the truth, and the life. Christ the truth. As we're grounded in a foundation, as Christ is our cornerstone, you see, no matter what comes our way, no matter how our boat rocks in the sea of life and the challenges we face, when we are enwrapped by the truth of Christ, knowing that Christ is our truth, that He has loved us, we are secure. Secondly, it talks about putting on the breastplate of righteousness. Now, the breastplate covered the throat so we could speak, but most importantly, it covered the heart. And in Jesus' day, the heart was seen as the center of the soul. It was the place where God is active. It was the place out of which the emotion flows, the heart being the symbol of our center. Interestingly, it is the heart which becomes for us the symbol of the ways in which we respond compassionately to each other.